Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good to see you again, and we've got another matchup here. This is Game 5. We are actually going to be playing against another Katakuri. I know that the last video yesterday was against a Katakuri, but I do think that this is one of the more, like, kind of important matchups to sort of understand, you know, like, what are you looking for in some of those triggers and everything, and, you know, times to be using certain cards. And I felt like this was actually one of the better matches. Spoiler alert, I actually end up losing this match, and it's because of my own misplay. And so I am actually really excited to go over, you know, the thought process of that misplay and maybe where I could have capitalized a little bit better. But to get into the match, on my turn 2, I am just going to play a hogback off of leader effect. I do get Lucci and Lucci and Borsellino into the trash. I'm very happy with having both of those in trash, so I'm alright with that. My opponent is just going to swing 7 here and then put a card to the bottom of his life pool. I'll go ahead and take, you know, 7k it's just a little too early to be countering out of such a large swing. So I'll go ahead and take that. He's going to play down the Sparrow. Going into my opponent's next turn, I know that Gadatsu is going to be extremely good. So I'm trying not to let my opponent use that Gadatsu in that exact moment. And so I decided to swing 5 with lead. I could swing 5 with the hogback as well to be a little aggressive if I wanted to. But lucky for us, no trigger on the first life. And I'm just going to play Sabo, but I don't believe I swing with hogback. I want my opponent to attack me down to 3 life. It allows my characters to stay alive and just be in less of an inconvenient position. But using the Sabo, I go ahead and get Absalom into trash as well as the Ice Age. I want to have Absalom, you know, of course, for leader effect, but I do believe that I already had an Ice Age or 2 in hand, so I had no need for that. I'm going to counter out with Perona, though, on this 5k swing. I don't want to rest... Sabo just yet, because I do believe that my opponent is going to go for a 7k swing with leader. He's still got 5 Dawn remaining. You know, we're probably not going to see Gadatsu. We could, just to see the body onto the board, but I would imagine that it's more than likely going to be like a 4-cost Sanji, or maybe even like a 4-cost Kikunojo. And so 7k, I am just going to go down to the 3, but instead he actually ends up playing Cracker. Cracker isn't largely inconvenient for us, but I don't want it on the board, if I'm being completely honest with you. So I'm kind of like, oh, all right, well, we're definitely going to have to deal with this. And right now, I'm actually having a discussion with my opponent. This is a good friend that, you know, he actually ends up being like a awesome supporter of the channel and everything, and you know, unfortunately he was having some camera freezes right here at this point in the game. It was only for like 5 to 10 seconds. I could see that his hand was staying in the same place every time. It wasn't a big deal. You know, no need to go crazy over it. It was just Discord being Discord that day. There was over 1,000 people in that Discord, so I can understand some of the technological issues that my opponent might have been having there. But I do use the Great Eruption onto the Cracker here. Definitely want to get that off the board. But I am trying to get it off the board for as much value as possible. So I am going to swing into the Pero for 6 right here. And I'm just going to try and see what I can get off my opponent. I want to see, like, will he be giving me, you know, a 2k for this? Will he just take? And then I can start going for life. I do end up trashing a Perona and getting another Perona out of trash, but, or excuse me, into trash from the mill, but I have to use Absalom here, so returning 2, just easy, quick Great Eruptions, straight to the bottom, and now a 6k to Sparrow. I know that the Sparrow is not something I want to leave on the board for too long. I just don't want my opponent to have a board at all after this turn. I want every single card to essentially be gone out of his out of his board. I'm going to go 5 with Dr. Hogback into Pero. Now, I do think my opponent is defending this a little heavy. Just like, it feels pretty heavy that he's defending this. I think he understands that it is an inconvenience for me, but I am gonna attack with this Sabo. I think that's what he wanted me to do in the end. He wants to get the Sabo off the board, so totally understandable. I think that if I could redo this, I think I would have went 7 with Hogback to maybe not swing with the Sabo, but I'm not that bothered by having to use that. It's going to cause my opponent to have to like really dedicate a lot of Dawn to go into it. It could potentially stall the 7 cost Big Mom as well, so I'm actually quite happy with just having it rested. And we do play Sindri to end off that turn. This actually ended up being massive for us. We got 2 more Absaloms into trash, as well as 2 Helmeppos and a Lucci. Like, probably one of the best Sindris I've ever gotten. He is going to do 8k, unfortunately revealing that I have the 8 cost Moria at the top of the life, so puts that to the bottom. We had not seen Moria at this stage in the game yet, so kind of a bummer to know that it was coming, but unfortunately is gone now. And the 8k swing does go into Sabo, which connects, and now we're seeing another 8k go into my Dr. Hogback. Yeah, so unfortunately, the board that I had built up this entire game is gone. I know that I'm looking down 10 cost Big Mom for the next turn, and I'm at 9 Dawn with no Moria in sight, which is a little unfortunate because I think that Moria here would be massive. Just being able to get 3 bodies onto the board, but more than likely able to draw another card, replenish the hand a little bit. So just not having that was actually extremely unfortunate for us at this exact moment. But I, lucky enough, do have another Sabo, and I'll go ahead and pitch a brand new as well as a Hogback here. And this is where I kind of make my first mistake of the game that turned out to be... I got kind of lucky. I swing 5 into my opponent's life. I didn't... excuse me. I did not attack my opponent's pudding. You do not want to leave a free attack on your opponent's board for no reason, for free, right? I know for sure that he's gonna be playing 10 Mom next turn, and yeah. Oh, and I almost forgot to mill the 2 off the top of the deck, but I choose to do that. And lucky for us, we actually end up picking up 8 cost Moria off the top. So I am gonna replenish the deck with 2 going for Sabo and Perona and picking up the Moria here. So Moria, very, very helpful for us in the next turn dealing with Big Mom. But I swing 7 to life, and my opponent takes, and he does end up triggering a Sanji, and I'm looking at the board and thinking to myself, oh my god, I messed up. So I swing 2 into the pudding, and we got super lucky. He forgot he could just block with the Sanji, and you can see my face. I'm like, oh, whew. Good thing he forgot. Like, I was supposed to swing into that pudding way earlier. Completely forgot. It's a very simple mistake. I don't think it's extremely important, but it is relevant. He does swing 5 here into the Absalom. I'm not going to let it happen because I know that 10 cost Big Mom is coming, but he is considering swinging with the Sanji. And now, I think that this is kind of like a arguable misplay. I don't think it's that important. He swings 5 into Absalom. I do think that it was worth keeping on the board with a very simple counter right here. But I do choose to let it go because I know that I'm going to be playing 8 cost next turn. But just that extra swing into life would have been probably very helpful for us, getting a card out of my opponent's hand. Just for a simple 5k swing would have been fantastic. And sadly, I do choose to let it go, but not the worst misplay. It really comes down to the end where I end up kind of overthinking and underthinking what could potentially happen. And you'll see exactly what I mean, but I'll just go 5 into life here. And my opponent does not get a trigger, so I'm very happy with that because I know that I have to dedicate pretty much everything into KOing my opponent's 10 cost Big Mom here. I want to be aggressive with the Sabo again. But I don't hate this. Swinging 7 into life. You know, however, had my opponent got a trigger, it could have been a little dicey. But I do choose to use the Ice Age onto the Big Mom. I'm going to go ahead and bring out Lucci, Helmeppo to bring down Big Mom to a 2-cost, and Lucci to KO. So wiped out my opponent's entire board. It forces my opponent to have another 10-cost Big Mom if they want to try and put me in an inconvenient position. The fact that they already searched one, though, makes me highly believe that I should be seeing another 10-cost Big Mom. But yeah, I think that just having an extra swing would have been a lot better for us. So maybe not going with the Sabo here and saving one of the bodies on board. But it could have been. I don't really think the way we played it was all that bad. I do get Kuzan into trash. Finally, would have loved to see it this match, but it's okay. I don't feel like we needed it. It just would have been a little helpful. And so now we're getting down to the wire here. My opponent has 3 life. I have 1. I know that at this exact moment, I have a Sabo in hand, and you can kind of see me like mulling over it right now. I'm just kind of thinking like, okay, what are the potential triggers my opponent could have? I could potentially lose a blocker here if it is Onami. I haven't seen an Onami yet, but it is, you know, something to be weary of. So just to play defensively, I believe that we do get down the Sabo first just to stop any potential effects from my opponent. You know, removing my Hogback, Lucci, Sabo. I just want to protect my board, make sure that I have 2 blockers. I'm looking solid. I do wish that I had picked up a 3rd blocker here, but sadly I did not. So I am just going to hit him with a 5k swing. I want to see what his reaction to this is. You know, are you going to counter out? Are you going to take the card and potentially get a trigger? Based off of what he gets, I have in hand right now, I believe, 2 Surus, so 2 2k counters as well as a 1k. I don't remember exactly what the 1k counter was, but yeah, I'm just gonna kind of test the waters though with the 5k. We still have leader swing, Lucci, as well as Moria. So I am just gonna go 5 again with leader. I'm trying to get as many cards out of hand as possible and potentially get them to 2 life and then go for game the following turn. That would have been the best play. But as we're going through this, a 5k swing, I just kind of am not really fully thinking about, you know, what my opponent could potentially have in hand, as I am thinking about what my opponent might have in life. And I think that does kind of come back to bite me here towards the end of this match, because he does end up taking this trigger and gets a Sparrow. Very solid. This card was not set up for him either. This was just put to the top with 10 cost Big Mom. He has 4 cards in hand and 2 life. I'm going to pause the video here for a second. With this in mind, I have no way of dying the following turn. Let's say my opponent has Reject. Let's say my opponent has Amaru. They can get to Reject, KO my last life, and now I have 2 blockers, but they have to get 3 swings through. If they use Amaru onto the... let's say they use Amaru onto the Sparrow, bringing it up to 8k. They now have 4 Dawn left. They could attach 1 to Sparrow and then 3 to leader, and they could get a 9, 9, 12. I have 2 2ks and a 1k in hand. I know what my last life is, being the wow, why am I forgetting the name of it? The 8-cost Moria. So I for sure survive the next turn, and I feel like it puts my opponent on having exactly that, or having exactly like another 10 cost and swinging into life. I counter out, but have to block 1. So the play here is to just pass the turn. My opponent got the extra swing that they need to potentially set up lethal, and I'm just going to let it play out how it goes. And yeah, I'm going to hop back into it. We get 1 Dawn here. I'm considering swinging with Lucci. I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm trying not to be too greedy, but I want to get 1 more swing in. If I get 1 more swing in, I can get my opponent to 1 life, and then 10 cost Big Mom doesn't change a thing for me. So I decide to go 7 into life, and unfortunately, my opponent does end up deciding to take this take this life, and it is a super solid trigger. They get Kiku Nojo, and I'm thinking to myself, oh man, I might have screwed up. So we're kind of in it for the long haul now. I've just got to go for game because I can't remove these off the board. Otherwise, I just lose the game. And now I'm going to go, I believe, 9 with the Gecko Moria. My opponent's still having 4 cards in hand. Yeah, I'm thinking of, you know, what are the potential outs my opponent might have, and I'm thinking like, okay, it's like, it has to be Bej. Like, Bej is the only way that I could lose this game. So, other than them having like an endless supply of 2Ks in hand, and my opponent hits the Capone Bej onto my Sabo, you can see the kind of look of despair in my eyes. Now I'm thinking, all right, with 4 Dawn, do I play down the... I believe actually that I did have a Borsalino in hand, so 100% we messed up just going for life. I think I was getting a little too greedy. I thought that perhaps if I swung 1 more time, I'd be fine, but then I put them in range of having Amaru, so playing down the Borsalino basically was just not useful for me. And now I'm just kind of going over it in my head, and I realize I just have to pass turn and hope that my opponent somehow swings incorrectly or doesn't have reject. And yeah, he ends up hitting me with the spicy tech and hits me with the 4-cost Katakuri Rush. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? It's like, what in the world? So this Katakuri now has Rush because he's at less life, and this was just not what I was expecting at all. So a 7k to life, I know that I have to take, or I have a 2k, 1k, and now I'm just shaking my head because I know that I threw this match. I should have been 5-0 here, and I completely threw it because of my own simple mistake. Just not realizing, like, what is my opponent's out there, and the only way that my opponent could get out was by having 3 Amarus in hand, and I knew that wasn't the case. So even if they had 2 Amarus, let's say, I still would have been fine. And so I did mess this up, and I completely lose it. With a 7k swing, I have to give him 2 cards out of hand. He's thinking about how many swings that he needs to potentially go for lethal here. But, I mean, with 2 blockers on board, it's pretty simple. 7 with Kiku, 7 with Leader, 8 with Pero, and then 12 with Big Mom. Knowing what my last life is as well here is just super solid. And I'm just kind of disappointed in myself right now. You can see it in my face. I'm really bummed out that I lost this match. And there's the Amaru. I fully expected it as well, and I just didn't calculate that at the very end of the game. And it was simple oversight on my part. I was a little too greedy trying to go for the second to last life, but we had game. We had the game in our hands. And unfortunately, I just kind of let it slip. After seeing my opponent's hand, they didn't have another 10-cost Big Mom too. So, yeah, you can just see the disappointment in my face, though. But at least it was to somebody that is, you know, a member of the community, and, you know, big shout out to the homie here. I was just, shooting myself in the foot. But I wanted to share this match because I do think it's moments like this where it's hard to play around every single trigger, but at the same time, you can just recognize like moments and patterns to where you're like, okay, my opponent doesn't have a 4th swing here. I know for sure that I will be fine if they go for a game. And yeah, I just unfortunately didn't do that. So it is what it is, but I hope you guys enjoyed the match. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace.